I want to get that clay out of the hole. I want to find the tunnel. I didn't think of much else, to be honest. I don't know if that's rock or wood, but it's immovable right there.
For decades, Oak Island has been surrounded by rumors, failed expeditions, and unanswered questions. But what has just been uncovered may finally bring the mystery closer to the truth than ever before. Hidden deep beneath the island's rocky coastline, a sealed underground chamber has now been successfully opened by Marty Lagina and the excavation team. What they discovered inside immediately stunned everyone present. The chamber was completely dry, perfectly preserved, and sealed so tightly it appeared untouched for centuries, like a forgotten vault frozen in time. Preliminary carbon dating of the wooden structural supports places their origin between 400 and 1350 AD, suggesting that this construction predates most known European activity in the region. If the artifacts inside the chamber truly belong to the same historical period, Oak Island may no longer be just a legend of buried treasure. It could become one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in North American history, a breakthrough capable of changing everything researchers thought they knew about the island. Don't forget to like the video, share it with fellow mystery lovers, and subscribe to the channel to stay updated as the Oak Island secrets continue to unfold. For more than 2 centuries, explorers believed the legendary Money Pit itself was the treasure vault. Now, new evidence suggests it may have served a very different purpose. Not as the vault, but as a sophisticated locking system designed to protect something hidden elsewhere. For 229 years, searchers unknowingly tried to open that lock, drilling deeper, triggering engineered flood tunnels, and pouring enormous resources into shafts that were never meant to reveal the true prize. Expeditions came and went, fortunes were spent, and lives were tragically lost, all in pursuit of treasure people believed lay directly beneath the pit. Yet the real secret may never have been at the bottom of that flooded shaft at all. Instead, it appears to have been concealed horizontally, buried beneath the shoreline, in a location so unexpected that for generations, almost no one thought to search there. The season 13 finale reveals what Marty Lagina, Marty Lagina, and their team discovered when they finally opened a doorway that had remained sealed for more than 600 years. This is not another dramatic teaser or a wait until next week moment. The material uncovered this season reshapes the Oak Island mystery entirely. By the end of this story, the legend will look very different. The breakthrough occurred while filming the episode $1 Billion Clues. Treasure hunter Gary Drayton was sweeping the shoreline with his metal detector when he picked up a signal that didn't match anything familiar. It wasn't the crisp tone of a coin or the flat response of scrap iron. Instead, the reading hinted at something deeper, a hollow presence beneath the surface. After decades of searching across multiple continents, Gary knows how buried materials sound. This signal felt wrong, suggesting an empty space where none should exist. When heavy equipment was brought in to investigate, the crew struck timber. The echo that followed was unmistakable, a deep, drum-like boom that only occurs when wood is backed by open space. Gary stopped instantly, detector still raised. In all his years on Oak Island, he had never heard anything like it. Marty Lagina, watching from the edge of the excavation, immediately recognized what that sound could mean. After 13 seasons filled with disappointments, near discoveries, and relentless skepticism, after seeing his brother invest millions into the search, he understood the implication. Something engineered, something hollow, was waiting below. Geologists had already been puzzled by unusual readings in that area. Natural rock layers do not form cavities shaped like this, and normal water erosion cannot produce such precise voids. As digging continued, the explanation became clear. The anomalies weren't geological at all. They were constructed walls, intentionally placed at a depth that protected them from tidal movement. This level of design required sophisticated understanding of water flow, soil stability, and structural planning, knowledge far beyond what 1700s pirates would have possessed. Whoever built the chamber clearly understood hydraulic pressure, underground sealing techniques, and long-term durability. This was not a hurried hiding place for stolen treasure. It was a carefully engineered project, executed with planning, expertise, and likely generations of accumulated knowledge. When the final barrier was opened, the team prepared for the usual disaster, a surge of seawater like the floods that had ruined so many earlier excavations. But the water never came. The seal held firm, and as the first pocket of air escaped from inside, it carried the unmistakable scent of ancient timber and undisturbed earth, the smell of a chamber that had remained closed for centuries, evidence that shouldn't exist if the history books are correct. There was something else carried in that first breath of air as well, a deep, aged mustiness, the scent of timber cut centuries ago when medieval rulers still governed much of Europe. In the faint light shining into the opening, the chamber walls revealed clear tool impressions. These were not the smooth, mechanical cuts of modern equipment, but the steady, deliberate marks of craftsmen who built with patience measured in years rather than hours. Marty Lagina reached the site less than an hour later. Standing silently at the edge of the opening, he stared into the darkness for several moments before finally speaking in a quiet voice. "This is it. This is what we've been searching for." The newly uncovered chamber may finally explain one of Oak Island's oldest mysteries. The famous flood tunnels connected to the money pit were likely never intended simply as defensive traps. Instead, they appear to have been part of a carefully designed hydraulic network, a system meant to divert water away from this hidden structure beneath the shoreline. The engineering was not created to flood the money pit. It was designed to protect something far more important nearby. For more than 2 centuries, every shaft dug and every tunnel driven into the island may have been aimed at the wrong destination. The true vault may have been here the entire time, but reaching it comes with serious danger. The chamber lies beneath immense pressure. Layers of wet soil and ocean water pushing against wooden supports that have slowly weakened over hundreds of years. One error, one unstable shift of earth could crush the chamber or flood it before its contents are properly recorded. Rick Lagina understood the risk clearly. Standing at the breach, he faced the defining decision of Season 13. Move slowly and risk missing the opportunity, or push forward and risk destroying what they had spent years trying to find. He chose to continue, cautiously. Even so, the island fought back. Season 13 brought the most aggressive excavation strategy yet, with heavier equipment, expanded dig zones, and a determined effort to finally drain the central search area. Rick and Marty committed enormous resources, years of planning, millions of dollars, and the expectations built over more than a decade of searching. Then, without warning, the ground shifted. A hidden cavity deep below suddenly collapsed, triggering a chain reaction that caused the surface above to sink and tilt. Heavy machinery leaned dangerously toward the forming void as crew members rushed to safety, shouting warnings across the worksite. Vibrations rippled across the island, disturbing nearby shafts and muddying excavation data collected over months. A column of dust rose high enough to be visible from the causeway. The noise was unforgettable, a deep grinding rumble as tons of earth shifted into place, followed by an eerie silence while everyone accounted for their teams. Gary Drayton, working at a nearby search area, felt the ground tremble beneath his boots and watched the dust cloud rising from the money pit zone. "That's not good," he said, already heading toward the evacuation point. "Not good at all." Operations stopped immediately. The site was evacuated, production paused, and safety inspections began. For several days, the money pit area remained sealed off, considered too unstable for anyone to approach. Geological conditions on Oak Island had become increasingly fragile, with underlying limestone and gypsum layers slowly dissolving, a natural process accelerated by decades of drilling and excavation. In many ways, the island itself was gradually weakening. While viewers watched the unfolding danger from their homes, for Rick, Marty, and the crew, the risk was very real. A collapse more than 100 feet underground can destabilize surrounding shafts, contaminate samples, and erase months of carefully gathered data in seconds. Yet the collapse revealed something unexpected. As the ground shifted, a previously unknown debris layer was exposed. Within the disturbed soil, workers recovered timber fragments unlike those used in 19th century searcher tunnels. These pieces bore hand-carved markings consistent with medieval construction techniques. Although the collapse destroyed some evidence, it also uncovered a secret that may have remained hidden for more than 600 years. The materials recovered during Season 13 point not to the era of pirates, but to the medieval period. Carbon dating results indicate human activity on Oak Island between approximately 1350 and 1400 AD, long before Columbus crossed the Atlantic. This discovery raises a challenging question. Have explorers been searching in the wrong place for decades? If the real story was unfolding beneath the shoreline and areas like Lot 5, while attention remained fixed on the money pit, then generations of effort, countless hours, massive financial investments, and even lost lives may have been spent pursuing a deliberate misdirection. The implications reach far beyond Oak Island. If skilled European builders were constructing complex underground works in Nova Scotia during the 1300s, the accepted timeline of transatlantic contact would need serious reconsideration. Viking voyages around the year 1000 AD are well documented, but those settlements were temporary. The new evidence suggests something far more organized, an expedition capable of establishing hidden, long-lasting infrastructure. Tools recovered from Lot 5 resemble designs used in medieval France and Scotland, the kinds of implements employed in the construction of castles and cathedrals. Tools meant for building, not searching. Holding one of the recovered timber fragments, Rick Lagina traced the shallow, curved grooves left by ancient tool strikes. The wood was dense and heavy, saturated with centuries of moisture, yet remarkably preserved. Each mark reflected the careful hand of a craftsman who expected the structure to endure for generations. "This isn't debris from later searches," Rick said quietly, turning the fragment over. "This is original. This came from the builders." He handed the piece to the archaeologist beside him, and the room fell silent as everyone recognized what they were seeing. Physical evidence of medieval construction buried beneath the soil of Nova Scotia. Evidence that challenges everything the history books say should exist. The consequences of this discovery are enormous. Evidence now suggests that Europeans may have been present on Oak Island nearly 3 centuries before the supposed discovery of the Money Pit in 1795, a possibility that challenges long-standing historical assumptions. Investigators are beginning to consider a new theory. The site may never have been intended to store gold or jewels at all. Instead, it could have served as a secure repository for an organization under threat, a hidden place designed to protect documents, sacred objects, or artifacts of profound importance. At the center of this theory is a name that has circulated around Oak Island for decades: the Knights Templar. For years, the Templar connection was often dismissed as speculation, supported only by carved symbols or coincidental markings. Now, however, the evidence is material: physical objects that can be analyzed, dated, and verified. Unlike pirate crews, the Templars were known as skilled engineers, architects, and builders responsible for some of the most advanced medieval structures in Europe. Cathedrals that still stand today and fortresses that have survived centuries of war and weather testify to their technical knowledge. They possessed expertise in hydraulics, soil mechanics, and large-scale construction. Exactly the kind of knowledge required to create the complex flood tunnel systems found on Oak Island. Those tunnels suddenly make far more sense. Designing a tidal-driven hydraulic system is not the work of improvised treasure seekers. It requires mathematics, engineering, and generations of accumulated building experience. A disciplined order with centuries of architectural tradition would have had precisely those capabilities. In the operations war room, Marty Lagina studied the laboratory report, confirming the carbon dating results. The timber recovered beneath the shoreline predates Columbus's voyage by more than a century. For Marty, the numbers on the page represented more than scientific data. They symbolized years of perseverance, financial risk, and the long defense of a search many people once doubted. "We're not treasure hunters anymore," he said quietly as he set the report down. "We're archaeologists, and we may have just uncovered evidence that reshapes history." Rick stood nearby, looking out across the island that had defined so much of their lives. Neither brother spoke for several moments. The significance of the discovery filled the silence. The season finale will present these findings in a dramatic reveal: tool-marked timber, medieval construction tools, and the carbon dating evidence pointing to activity in the 1300s. After 13 seasons of speculation, Oak Island finally holds tangible proof that its origins may be far older than once believed. Yet that proof also raises an unsettling thought. If something was intentionally hidden here, and if extraordinary measures were taken to keep it concealed, perhaps there was a reason it was meant to remain undiscovered. The old legend still echoes across the island: the belief that 7 lives must be lost before the treasure is found. 6 men have already died during past searches, and the events of Season 13 brought the expedition closer to another tragedy than ever before. What once sounded like dramatic folklore suddenly felt far more real as crews stood near unstable ground, watching machinery shift dangerously toward collapsing voids. The cave-in was not simply a delay, it was a near catastrophe that deeply shook everyone present. In the final days of filming, a large piece of equipment nearly slid into a newly opened cavity, while workers stood only feet away. Moments separated safety from disaster. After the evacuation, Rick Lagina remained near the perimeter, watching the dust slowly settle over the money pit. His expression carried something heavier than frustration, a quiet exhaustion, perhaps even grief. The weight of 13 years invested in a search that continued to demand more from those pursuing it. Footage from the finale reflects that mood. There are no celebrations, no triumphant speeches, only tired men gathered in the war room, processing how close they had come to losing everything. Their relief says, more than words ever could. They may have uncovered something extraordinary, but they were also reminded that the island remains unpredictable and dangerous. One of the boldest proposals now being discussed involves a radical solution, abandoning narrow shafts and tunnels altogether in favor of a massive open excavation, removing entire layers of soil to expose the structures directly. For years, some observers suggested such an approach, but after the recent collapse, what once sounded extreme now appears increasingly practical. Still, that decision carries enormous consequences. Once the island is stripped open, the original archaeological context could be permanently altered and the mystery would end, one way or another. As Season 13 concludes, Rick and Marty Lagina face a decision unlike any before. Step back because the risks have grown too great, or push forward and potentially tear the